Welcome back. This is the webinar summary for Webinar 3 and ZebraZapps Getting Started. Here are a few things that we'll be going over. We'll be learning how to create yet another master page and linking it up to all of our events. We'll start by creating a multiple choice question and learning how to show feedback. We'll be showing and hiding more objects as we did in Webinar 2. And then we'll jump into talking about arenas. They're extraordinarily useful objects inside ZebraZapps and allow you to create lots and lots of nested content. Let's get started. Make sure that you're, of course, following along with your Webinar 3 Learner's Guide. For this one, we'll start with the starter file that was sent to you, W3 phone start. I'm going to click Edit here from my projects list to open up the ZebraZapps editor. And of course, this is going to bring in a project that's essentially got all of the work completed from Webinar 2, including some of the homework that you were assigned. And of course, now I can scroll with my scroll bar here through to see the rollover interactions that we created for the Easy Phone and the other two that were assigned to you as homework, the Finley and the Rugby Smart. To start off, looking at what we created in Webinar 2, I see some commonalities that we could pull out and put inside master page, and that's this orange bar and our subtitle here. So I'm going to double click to jump into event number 5. Doesn't matter which one you choose, 3, 4, or 5 is fine. I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle and the text here for Technicom phones. I'm going to leave the phone model since that's really a subtitle for each of these three events. We can go up to the Edit menu and cut these two. I'm going to go now back out to Event Flow, and I'm going to show you how we can take that rectangle and text that we just cut, put it into a master, and then go back and reapply it throughout the course. So with my scroll bar down at the bottom here in Event Flow, I'll move all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to add another master to the right of Master A. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, master pages can be layered, and you can apply multiple masters to a single event. Masters that are to the right are on top of masters that are to the left, so they stack. I double click to start editing Master B. Again, there are two ways that you can do that. I'll go back out to Event Flow. You can either double click right in the center of the thumbnail, or you can press the pencil icon here at the top to start editing the master. Now all I have to do is paste in the rectangle and the text, and they're going to paste in place as they were in those other events. Now I'm going to jump back out to Event Flow here for a second and scroll across. So to reapply that across all of my masters, or across all of my events, all I have to do is go up to the title bar here at the top, roll over the master page selector. Here's Master B, and you can see all I have to do now is click to apply, and it's going to go right back in place. And this allows me, if I want to change the font or if I want to change the color, to only have to do it in one place, and that's the master all the way over here back in Master B. As I scroll across now, what I want to do is go back into the event for the Finley, as well as the event for the Easy Phone, and just delete that rectangle. So I'll do that now real quick. And all I'm doing is selecting and deleting the text and the title. And of course, even inside the event while I'm editing, I can reapply that master. One thing that I realized that we haven't talked about before are these two little arrows here at the very top. This allows me to jump between events without having to go back to Event Flow. So by clicking the arrow here to the left, it's going to move me back to event number 3. And it, of course, can take me all the way to the end or all the way to the beginning. If you're doing stuff in succession between events, it's nice to not have to jump out to Event Flow every time. Okay, we've now got that rectangle and our title text applied to all of these events, as well as I now have the opportunity for any future events that I create to not have to recreate that rectangular text or copy and paste it from another event. All right, I hope you've all remembered that you can pause the video at any time as you're working along in your own project and then resume when you're ready. The next step here is to add a new event. And I'm just going to bring my scroll bar here together and zip all the way to the end. I'm going to create a new event at the very end. This will be event number 6. And you notice it already has brought over the title text as well as the orange bar that we had created. Essentially, it remembered the masters that were selected in 5 when we used the plus button at the top. I can, again, either use the edit pencil icon or simply double click to start editing this event. Here we'd like to create our first quiz question, and we're going to bring in all 3 models, or at least an image of all 3 models, onto the screen, and we're going to ask our student which phone is the easy phone. So maybe we'll just start with text first, put our text object on the screen here, and ask our question. Which phone is the easy phone? And of course, you remember how to do all those font changes and even change the font type. You can pump up the size just a little bit, make it bold if we'd like. That'll be fine for now. All right, let's bring in 3 images for each of the phones. So again, we're going to go back to the resource library, and we'll find the front-facing versions of each of these phones. They're delineated by the first part of the phone name and F for the front. So I'm going to bring in, first I'm going to bring in the easy phone, and again, all of these images are just a little bit too big. That's so that you have an opportunity to practice resizing. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And I think I like exactly 40% for each of these. There are some shortcuts that you can take, and I'll show you one of them now. I'm going to drop in the Finley, and I'm going to drop in the Rugby. Again, both of these are too big. I'll make sure to only select with my mouse, so clicking on the front of the Rugby phone, and then holding down the Shift key, selecting the Finley. You'll notice over here on the inspector that at the very top it now says multiple selection. So it realizes that we have more than one object selected. I'm going to do that one more time. So simply click some space on the back of your stage, select the Rugby. Notice that at the top of the inspector it now says Rugby F. Hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and click the Finley. Now it changes the top of the inspector to say multiple selection. Now any change here over in the inspector that I make is going to affect both of these 2 images. So I know that I like a zoom percentage of 40. Simply type that in, hit enter, and they're both going to zoom down to 40%. And I'll do a little bit of repositioning. All right, I'm going to do one last step and then ask you to take a break, and that is I'm going to put in some text now for feedback, assuming that the user is trying to find the easy phone, which is the one here in the middle. So I'm going to put feedback for yes, that's correct under the easy phone. No, that's incorrect for both the Rugby and for the Finley. So again, just simply taking our text object, and we'll just put our feedback right here at the bottom. Okay, I hope you've had a chance to enter in all of your feedback, and your screen probably looks quite a bit like mine, where we've got some feedback text here at the bottom that's a little hard to read. I am again going to shift select all 3 of my text objects so that I've got all of them selected, and can take advantage now of the inspector and the multiple selection, allowing me to change one property across all 3 objects. I'm going to scroll down, so using the scroll bar here on the right, scroll down to Appearance, and here we have Fill Opacity. All of our text objects default to having a fill opacity of 0, assuming that you're going to use something interesting in the background to make them stand out. But if I wanted to add a little bit of a white contrast to the background, I could simply grab the slider here for fill opacity and bring them all up a little bit so that the text is legible. So go ahead and make sure that you've got your feedback all typed in, and then we'll bring the fill opacity up just a little bit. Okay, so we've got our feedbacks now all listed at the bottom. One of the next steps that I'd like to do here is to label each one of these message centers. We're going to start wiring things up and making our connections for the multiple choice question. I want to make sure that I'm doing it right, and one of the easiest ways for me to visually make sure that I'm doing things appropriately is to label my message centers. So I'm just going to simply start labeling my message centers here, letting me know which one is the correct answer and which ones are the incorrect answers. Okay, if you remember from webinar 2, we used pointer over and pointer out on our rectangles to show some text. And let me zoom in just a little bit. Again, those are outs. And outs, again, are things that your user can do to an object. And so if I open up the message center here for Finley, click on the outs, I get 3 categories: point and click, drag and drop, and collision. Opening up any one of those categories now is going to show me a few more ribbons. Yesterday for our rollovers, we focused in on pointer over and pointer out. What we want to have happen is we only want the feedback to become visible once our student actually clicks on the phone, making an actual selection. Otherwise, this multiple choice question would be too easy. So what I want to have happen is when the student clicks on the phone, I click and drag to pull out a wire. So when the student clicks on the phone, I want to be able to display this text that's down here at the bottom. So we need to talk to its message center. We could look under properties or outs, but ins are the tricks or the behaviors, the things that this object can just naturally do. And if I go down to ins, I get 2 more categories, display and do. And in this case, we also want to simply show the feedback. I'll clip that wire and do it one more time so that you can see how that connection was made. Again, you could hit the undo key, which is Z on your keyboard, if you'd like to, if you think you've made a mistake and you'd like to try again. It's often nice to have both of the message centers already up and showing. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to select the 2 objects that you're going to wire between, holding down the Shift key. That gets both of their message centers to appear at the same time. Now I can click and drag from the port here. Again, we're clicking on the phone image. We're going to the message center for the text, and under In, Display, Show, we let go. So that's made that connection. Let's now do that for the next 2 phones. Shift click to get both of their message centers to appear. Again, the T for text lets me know that this is my feedback, and the little picture over here lets me know that that's the message center for the phone. I'll open up outs, point and click, and I'm going to click and drag to create a wire, holding down my mouse, bringing it over to ins, and to display, and to show, and letting go. And you'll notice as you drag a wire over buttons and other things inside the message center, that the message center realizes that you've got a wire and starts to open up either categories or to show you other ribbons so that you can make the connection. So it's just the same as opening a message center with your mouse, clicking and opening to find the category that you're after. And if you've made a mistake or lingered too long, just move back and move forward just a little bit, just like this, and you'll get back to exactly the ribbon that you're looking for. All right, one last time. We'll go from the outs on the picture down to the text message center, ins, display, and show. We'll go ahead and save. One last thing before we run this interaction, I'll zoom out just a little bit. If you remember from webinar 2, we used hide on run to make sure that our feedback or our rollover text wasn't showing when we started to run the interaction. So I'm going to click the text down here, get its message center open, go to visibility, and say hide on run. And I'll again do that for the other two feedback texts. All right, with all three created, let's test our project and see how it works. I'm going to go up to the event title bar, and I'm going to press the run button from here. Not using the global one, I just want to run event number 6. So I'm going to go up and press this button here. Notice all the feedback text has disappeared. If I were to click on the rugby, its text appears. The Finley, its text appears, and the Easy Phone, its text also appears. This probably isn't exactly how we want our multiple choice question to work, so let's go back into edit mode and make a few changes so that it behaves where only one feedback is showing at a time. I'm going to click on the Edit Reset button for the entire project. Okay, we're back in edit mode here for event number 6. Pull some things off to the side and just zoom in on my work area a little bit so that you can see the message centers as I'm wiring. All right, so when we run this project as it currently stands, I can get all three feedbacks to show at the same time. If you remember from show and hide, well, we were using the counterpart here to show under display to hide each object when our mouse was out. We can actually have multiple actions happen from a single out ribbon. So click can not only just show the correct feedback, but it also can hide the incorrect feedback for both the rugby and the Finley. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the rugby's message center, maybe move its image message center out just a little bit, and I'm also going to shift click on my phone, move its text down just a little bit, move the message center for the image up to the top. So when I click on the Easy Phone image, I want to hide the text. Whether it's showing or not, it doesn't matter. But if it had been showing, I want to make sure to hide it. So I'm going to drag from clicking on the Easy Phone to the message center for the rugby's feedback text, down to hide and let go. I'm going to do the same now for Finley. Click and drag, and you can do this from either side. Just make sure that your mouse isn't over one of the other wires. And you know that it's over one of the other wires because that wire will become a lot thicker. So if you go right to the port, click and drag, you can create a new wire, and you can do it from either side. If you drag your wire all the way across, you'll notice that it moves from out to out. Click and drag. Bring this down here to the text's feedback, over to the in, and to hide and let go. Take a moment, make that connection from the Easy Phone when you click to hide the incorrect feedback for both the rugby and for the Finley. Great, I hope you've gotten that portion put together. We can go ahead and test it just to make sure. Let's hit the run button. Again, run from this event from the title bar, not the global one over here on the left, but run from this event forward. And the easiest way to test it, of course, is to click now on the rugby to get its feedback showing, to click on the Finley to get its feedback showing. And now I'm going to click on the Easy Phone. We should now only see its feedback, and these two should hide. Awesome. We've got our wiring correct. I'm going to go back to Edit Reset mode, and now our challenge is to continue wiring up to make sure that when we click on the Finley that we hide the correct feedback and the incorrect feedback for the rugby, and if we click on the rugby that we hide these two feedbacks. I'll do that quickly now. Take a moment to make those connections yourself, and then let's test it. I'm going to hit run from this event forward. And now I should only be able to have a single feedback text showing at one time, no matter what order I click in. Okay, I'm going to go back again to Edit Reset, using the global edit reset and continuing to edit event 6. Of course, if you had clicked on another button by accident and wanted to get back to event number 6, remember you can always hit the event flow button up here, use the scroll bar at the bottom, and navigate back to event number 6. In edit mode, of course, all of our feedback becomes visible again, and all of our phones are visible, and our title is still here at the top. And that's great, because what we want to do is to take advantage of this essentially template that we've created and reuse it so that we can have a quiz question for each one of these phones. We don't just want to have one question. We want to have at least 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything here in this event, which is just these 3 feedback texts at the bottom, the 3 phone images, and the text at the top. A couple ways I can do that. You can go up to the edit menu and say select all, or you can just simply use the A key on your keyboard, or you could do a marquee selection to get all of those objects on the screen. And one thing that I would like to show you here is if I do a marquee select, you notice I get all the message centers showing all at once. We've got a control so that you can change the level of wiring that you see. That's way up here at the top. There's a quick key drop down here for it, so we can go show all wires, show related wires, show selected wires, hide all message centers if we like. Now we just see these objects that are selected. You'll also find show more wires or show fewer wires by using the W or Shift W on your keyboard. So again, we can show all those message centers or hide them. The advantage here of hiding them is giving me more visibility onto my screen to let me know that I have actually selected all the objects that I want. Again, that's the 3 feedbacks at the bottom, the 3 images, and our title for the question. Now I'm going to introduce creating an arena. I want to put all of these objects essentially into a flipbook, and my flipbook is going to contain all of my quiz questions. The arena can be found as a tool over here on the toolbox. It's this guy. It looks like 2 boxes with dotted lines all the way around them. The other way that I can create an arena, just so that you know, you can of course click on the tool, click and drag, and that brings an arena onto the stage. I'm going to hit the delete key to delete it. The other way that you can make an arena is by selecting a group of objects, just like so, going to the arrange menu, and putting them inside an arena. Zebra makes an arena the exact bounds of all of the objects that you have selected. So notice it goes to the very top of where that text was and to the bottom right here where this text was and no further. It places what we call an arena controller at the top, and this allows us to add pages to our flipbook if we'd like, as well as navigate through it. Notice here it's also letting us know that we're looking at page 1 of our arena and there are only 1 pages in our arena. So of course we can hit the plus button to add another page. Notice this is page 2. We're on page 2 of 2, and I can use my controller to now navigate back and forth. We've got some nice details about the arena controller in the learner's guide. I invite you to take a look at that, as well as get comfortable with just paging between these two. The middle button here is a run button or a play button, and should you accidentally click this, it's just going to start flipping through all of the pages for you, just like a flip book would. You can, of course, hit the pause button to stop that. I'm going to go to page 2 and to delete it. So this works a lot like adding events to your project. You can add pages and delete pages just like you can from event flow. In addition, just like event flow, you can copy everything that was on one of your pages in your arena and paste it into a new page while you're making it. So if I take my mouse and I hover right over the top where the plus button is, you notice that the tooltip gives me some instruction. Hold the Shift key to insert the page before it. So holding the Shift key and hitting plus would make a new page number 1. And holding down the Alt key would duplicate everything on the page and add it after page number 1. So if I do that, I'm going to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, or the Option key, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC, and click plus. Might take just a second, but now you see we have 2 pages in our arena, and we're currently looking at page number 2. I can now use the arena control bar to flip back and forth, and you should see no change, right? Because page number 2 is a complete duplication of page number 1. I'm going to go to page number 2 on my arena, so use the control bar here to select page number 2, and now let's actually run our project one more time. You'll notice that the feedback disappears just as we had created before, and all of that wired functionality has stayed in place. We've made a copy not only of the images that were on the screen, not only of some of the presets that we had made like hide on run, but also all of the wiring is also still intact. And of course, if you'd like to see that, go back to the upper right here and show related wires, which is the default wire setting view. You can also go to the view menu to show more wires if you aren't seeing something that you think you should, or simply press the W key or Shift W key to change your wiring view. Okay, now that we've got 2 pages here in our arena and all the wiring is set in place, I'm going to go to page number 2 and put in some new text for our second quiz question. So let's make this one, which is the TK Rugby. So I've changed the title to my question. Now all I have to do is change what the feedback is. And really it's only 2 feedbacks that I need to change. So say no. This is the easy phone 112. Try again. We'll bring this feedback text just a little bit wider so all of it's visible. And we'll say, yes, that is correct. So now we have 2 different questions, and of course you could change the order of the phones if you'd like, move things around on the screen to make your simple multiple choice question just a little bit harder. The last thing that I want to do is I want to change the transparency of the arena background itself. I still want to be able to see this nice background that we put in place. So I'm going to select off, and the easiest thing to do is to just select off or hit spacebar on your keyboard. Now I'm going to select the arena, making sure that only the arena message center is highlighted yellow. And I'm going to use my inspector this time. I'm going to roll down here to the appearance category and find the fill opacity and the line opacity. We're going to bring our fill opacity down here all the way. I'm going to bring it down just to about 1, not all the way to 0. And by leaving it more than 0, it means that I can still grab here in the center and move all of my objects around just like I could before. So I can still click and drag anywhere on the arena to move things around. I could either drop my line opacity all the way down to 0 so there's no edge on it, or of course I could just type in here on my line weight and bring it also down to 0. So now I've got a 2-page quiz question, and everything looks as though it's placed just on the background. In our next webinar, we're going to work on creating some links and buttons so that you can move forward and back here on this arena without having to use the arena control bar in edit mode, as well as put in some buttons for navigating between the full project. So go ahead and add a few more pages, put in more quiz questions inside your arena, and then we'll be ready to work on the next step. And of course, when you move back out to event flow now, the nice thing here is we've got all of our quiz questions set up to be maintained just inside event number 6. That brings us to the end of the summary video here for webinar 3. Please make sure you refer back to your webinar learner's guide for more information, as well as more information on the homework assignment that comes with webinar 3. Make sure you have ample time to practice wiring and copying and pasting and using the arena. If you have any questions, of course, make sure that you refer back to your learner's guide and reach out to the instructor. Thanks so much.